You wake up, reach for the same pill, swallow it with a sip of water, and check the numbers again. Still high. Maybe even higher than yesterday. So the dose increases, or another medication is added. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet question forms: why isn't this actually getting better? If that question feels familiar, stay with me, because what you're dealing with might not be what you think it is. And more importantly, the solution may not be where you've been told to look. For most people, high blood pressure is treated like a simple numbers problem. The reading goes up, so we bring it down. Straightforward, logical. But here's what often gets missed, especially after the age of 600. The number isn't the root problem. It's a signal, a symptom, a reflection of something deeper happening inside your blood vessels, something that no pill alone can fully repair. When you're younger, your arteries are naturally flexible. They expand and contract easily with each heartbeat, absorbing the force of blood being pumped through them. Think of them like a brand new, soft rubber hose, smooth, responsive, and resilient. But over decades, years of stress, diet, inflammation, and simple aging, those same arteries begin to change. They stiffen, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly at first. That elasticity you once had starts to fade. Now imagine that same rubber hose left out in the sun for years, harder, less flexible, more brittle. This stiffness changes everything. When your arteries lose their ability to expand, your heart has to push harder to move blood forward. That increased force is what shows up as high blood pressure. So the number on your monitor isn't just a random spike, it's your heart working overtime, every minute of every day, trying to compensate for vessels that no longer respond the way they used to. Medications can absolutely help lower that number. They're important, and they should never be stopped or changed without medical supervision. But here's the key distinction: most medications manage the pressure. They don't rebuild the vessel. They don't restore flexibility. They don't repair years of accumulated inflammation. They don't address the underlying environment inside your arteries. And that's where a different approach begins, not in replacing your treatment, but in supporting what your body is trying to do naturally. Because your body still has the ability to respond. It still has the capacity to improve how your blood vessels function, but it needs the right conditions, the right signals, the right raw materials. And surprisingly, many of those are already within reach, sitting in your kitchen, not your medicine cabinet. Let's go deeper. One of the central players in this entire story is something most people have never heard of: nitric oxide. It's not a supplement. It's not a medication. It's something your body produces naturally, and it plays a critical role in keeping your blood vessels healthy, flexible, and responsive. When nitric oxide levels are sufficient, your arteries receive a simple instruction: why? Relax, open up, reduce resistance, let blood flow smoothly. But as you age, nitric oxide production tends to decline. At the same time, the systems that depend on it become less responsive. That combination creates the perfect environment for rising blood pressure. Now here's where things get interesting. Your body doesn't just produce nitric oxide on its own, it also builds it from what you eat. Certain foods contain compounds that your body can convert into nitric oxide through a step-by-step biological process. And when you consistently supply those building blocks, you're essentially helping restore a pathway that may have been underperforming for years. One of the most effective sources of these compounds is beetroot. A simple glass of beet juice contains a high concentration of natural nitrates. Once consumed, those nitrates enter your bloodstream and begin a transformation process that ultimately leads to nitric oxide production. This isn't speculation, it's a well-documented physiological pathway, and when nitric oxide increases, blood vessels relax, blood flow improves, pressure begins to ease. But here's what makes this especially powerful: it works with your body, not against it. There's no forcing, no overriding, just restoring a process that already exists. Now imagine pairing that with another natural compound, this time from garlic. Garlic has been used for centuries, but its benefits depend heavily on how it's prepared. Inside each clove is a compound that only becomes active when the garlic is crushed and allowed to rest. That resting period, those 10 to 15 minutes, is when the transformation happens. Skip that step, and you lose much of the benefit. Do it correctly, and you unlock a compound that supports nitric oxide production and influences blood pressure regulation through additional pathways. It's not about eating large amounts. It's about consistency and preparation. Small actions, done correctly, repeated daily. Now let's zoom out for a moment, because even if your body is producing nitric oxide, there's another challenge happening at the same time, something quietly working against you. Oxidative stress. This is where free radicals, unstable molecules in your body, begin to break down nitric oxide before it can do its job. So even if you're producing it, you might not be keeping enough of it active long enough to make a difference. And this is where antioxidants come in, particularly vitamin C. Vitamin C doesn't directly lower blood pressure. That's not its main role here. What it does is protect nitric oxide. It acts like a shield, neutralizing the free radicals that would otherwise destroy it. That means more nitric oxide survives, more signals reach your arteries, and more relaxation can occur. It's not adding something new, it's preserving what's already there. And when you start to see these connections, the picture becomes clearer. This isn't about one food or one habit. It's about a system where each part supports the others. Now let's talk about minerals, because this is another area where many people fall short without realizing it. Magnesium is one of the most important minerals for vascular health. It helps your blood vessels relax. It reduces tension. It supports a more stable, balanced cardiovascular environment. But here's the problem: as we age, our ability to absorb magnesium decreases. So even if your diet hasn't changed, your levels might still be lower than they should be. That subtle deficiency can make it harder for your blood vessels to respond properly, even when everything else is in place. Then there's potassium. Potassium works differently. It helps your body manage sodium levels, which directly affects fluid balance and pressure inside your blood vessels. When potassium is sufficient, your body can better regulate excess sodium, reducing the strain on your system. Together, magnesium and potassium create a foundation. They don't act instantly. They don't create dramatic overnight changes, but they support stability, balance, responsiveness, and over time, that matters more than anything quick or temporary. Now let's address something even deeper, something that often goes unnoticed but plays a major role in long-term cardiovascular health: chronic inflammation. This isn't the kind of inflammation you feel with pain or injury. It's low grade, persistent, and often invisible. But inside your blood vessels, it creates real changes. It stiffens the walls, it narrows the pathways, it reduces the ability of vessels to respond to signals like nitric oxide. So even if everything else is working, inflammation can block the results. And that's where certain fats, specifically omega-3 fatty acids, become incredibly important. These fats help calm that internal inflammation. They support the structure of your blood vessels. They improve flexibility. They reduce the kind of internal stress that builds up over time. And unlike many interventions, their effect is cumulative. The more consistently they're included, the more they contribute to a healthier internal environment. At this point, you might notice a pattern. Nothing here is extreme. Nothing requires a complete lifestyle overhaul. There's no drastic restriction, no complicated protocol. Just small, deliberate adjustments that work together. And that's what makes it sustainable, because real change doesn't come from doing everything perfectly for a short time. It comes from doing simple things consistently for a long time. Now imagine what happens when these elements start working together. Your oral bacteria remain intact, allowing proper nitrate conversion. Your diet supplies the raw materials needed for nitric oxide production. Your antioxidants protect that nitric oxide once it's formed. Your minerals support vessel relaxation and balance. Your omega-3 intake reduces inflammation, allowing everything else to function more effectively. This is synergy. Each part amplifies the others, and slowly, quietly, your body begins to respond. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. Your readings begin to shift. Your vessels become more responsive. Your system starts to feel less strained. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel like you're not just managing a condition, you're actually supporting your body in a meaningful way. Because at the end of the day, your body isn't working against you. It's adapting, responding to what it's given, trying to maintain balance with the resources it has. And when you begin to change those inputs, even slightly, you change the outcome. So instead of asking, why isn't this working? A better question might be, what does my body actually need to work better? And when you start answering that question consistently, patiently, practically, that's when things begin to shift. Not just in numbers, but in how your body functions, how it responds, and how it supports you moving forward. Because improvement doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from understanding better and doing the right things quietly every single day.